What's cracking with y'all? It's your boy Prince the Hustle God, aka Wise the Warlock, aka Michelangelo the Madman, and we reaching in our combat tool bag one more again. Yes, it's a cold black affair. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. LDBC only, LDBC or nothing, LDBC versus everybody, LDBC everywhere. So let's get into it, y'all. This video is covering David Benavidez Sr. And his thoughts on the Caleb Plant altercation. He was just on the PBC podcast, so let's dive right on in. So a couple of things that David Benavidez Sr. or David Benavidez's dad said regarding Caleb Plant. One was extreme inaccuracy. He said, well, not extreme inaccuracy, it was a blatant lie. He said that the Caleb Plant and David Benavidez beef seemed to, or he didn't know where it started from, but it seemed to start from when David Benavidez became champion, and he has a bigger fan base, and he could only assume that Caleb Plant is essentially hating on that and wanted that position, or felt he deserved that position more so than his son. Why is that a lie? Because before David Benavidez was ever champion, us as the fans, as spectators, looking on the outside in, seeing footage of David Benavidez, Jose Benavidez, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, David Benavidez Sr., all in Caleb Plant's gym, talking crazy to his coach, trying to press his coach. And then we seen the reaction of Caleb Plant, essentially trying to keep everything, trying to be diplomatic and trying to keep everything conversational. And then he starts to kind of lose his cool and then reaches over and slaps the shit out of Jose Benavidez. And then a tussle ensues. So clearly the beef started from there, because then David Benavidez wasn't even a champion. David Benavidez was, he wasn't unknown, but he wasn't shit for real. Like, nobody was checking for David Benavidez at that time. And honestly, I can say even at that time, Caleb Plant had more momentum built and was more of a name, and even more widely touted by the PBC and more recognizable by the fans than David Benavidez at that time. David Benavidez wasn't known as the Mexican monster at that time. So that was a blatant lie. It had nothing to do with David Benavidez becoming champion. That happened after they had an altercation at Caleb's gym. But even going back to his quote, he said that they trained together in the same gym for some time, so he didn't see where the issue came from. And I'm like, well, clearly the altercation that we seen as fans wasn't at the gym that y'all was training at together. So clearly something happened before then. And as far as I know, Caleb Plant has always been training alongside his dad until he brought in more coaches. So for y'all to be training together in the same gym just doesn't add up, seeing as Benavidez trains out of Arizona and Caleb Plant was training out of Nashville until he I guess eventually moved. But yeah, so lies from the Benavidez camp regarding that. And David Benavidez Sr. also went on to discuss essentially how they will fight, as well as but before that, I guess he talked about the cocaine scenario and essentially was saying, why does it even matter? Because David Benavidez doing cocaine only hurts him. It's not like he's trying to hurt anyone else, and that should give you more of an advantage. And I'm sorry, y'all, that part just was like, wait a minute, what? Like, are you justifying the use of cocaine like in as a professional athlete and in a sport where it's we're in a clean sport. It's frowned upon to do anything, any form of narcotic or steroid. So for him to try to downplay his son's and possibly his own use of cocaine is just like, what? Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, you're trying to justify him doing cocaine and make it seem like Caleb's nitpicking with you guys about your personal life, when that could affect this fight. That could affect Caleb making millions, or your with your son. So it isn't something to just throw out the window or something to just ignore. That's a major factor. If you pop dirty for doing cocaine like you've been known to do in the past, or you, let's stick with the cocaine, you pop dirty and then the fight's off, or he has to get another opponent, the PBC isn't obligated to pay him at the same rate that they were going to pay him to fight David Benavidez. So clearly, like, y'all got to be actually from the hood, like myself, because you don't have any sort of business acumen, at least when you're defending drug use. But you seem to have a business acumen whenever it comes to uh, um, when it's time to fight Caleb Plant, right? It's bad business to fight Caleb Plant back when there was an offer uh, behind the scenes and y'all just wasn't ready, right? Or now isn't the time, or that fight needs to build. Y'all were businessmen then, and you can see the most lucrative route to take, and actually see the fiscal connections and all of the fiscal variables when it came to fighting Caleb Plant then. But now when we're talking about fiscal variables, things that can actually cancel out the financial prosperity of someone, that's all irrelevant because it pertains to you and your son and a drug addiction. Find that kind of funny. But going into his analysis of how they will fight Caleb, and how Caleb will fight them, um, he shows to have a legitimate boxing IQ, as well as he hinted at people say Caleb. I mean, well, no, he directly said people say his son doesn't have defense, or um, doesn't he's flat footed and stuff like that. And he's said that they've been working on that, as well as he knows that Caleb believes in his newfound power, but he knows for a fact that Caleb isn't about to be foolish enough to come straight at his son. And i.e., why would he if he asked for that bigger ring? So he kind of knows that the game plan for Caleb Plant is to stick and move, and his game plan is to come in there and beat him up, and he detailed that. So basically gave away his game plan. But when referencing his son David Benavidez, like, how many different ways have we seen David Benavidez fight? It's not like he's going to come in there and start using angles and working off of the jab, shooting check hooks and pivoting and turning the guy. He's coming straight at you to throw a bunch of punches. So it wasn't like he had to really go into detail on what they were going to do, but he did say that it's the runner versus the brawler. So he sees it how the rest of the world sees it, which can be detrimental. But I won't go too in depth with that. I just wanted to give you guys an update on the delusion and lies coming from David Benavidez Sr. And again, not again, but just to put a button on this, things like this, like the character of a man, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. We seen David Benavidez's behavior at the weigh-in, and it's like the character of a man makes it very hard to compartmentalize just from a fan's perspective, just the ability to appreciate you as an athlete, because you, the athlete, is connected to you, the person. So you, the person, if you're doing a whole bunch of fuck shit, you're a junkie and shit, and you missing weight and all this, that, and the third, like, and it bleeds into the profession. We don't have a reason to compartmentalize or separate the two. Like, David Benavidez has to give me a reason as a fan, as a spectator, to support or want to watch him, or, I mean, not or, but also overlook all of the flaws that he's presented us with. So, that said, you successfully reached in your combat tool bag. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. There are 3 ways to support the channel. It'll be linked in the description. Love y'all. Much appreciation, and deuces.